Did you ever get the courage to put them on? Or did they stay in the bag?
No, I put them on every now and then.
Okay.
I did.
That's so brave of you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trailblazer.
Trailblazer.
This isn't therapy. This is not therapy. This is not therapy. This is not therapy. This isn't therapy.
Hello.
Hello, hi, and
Welcome back
to another fun,
flirty
fabulous
episode
of
This Isn't Therapy.
The podcast about all the stuff people are talking to their therapists about.
Correct.
My name is Jakers, and I am a therapist.
And my name is Simon Palick, and I am not a therapist. However, Jake and I, we're just two gal pals who like to have conversations about therapy. So each week on this podcast, Jakey and I, we grab our grubby little paws.
Grab them.
We put them on. We twist. We pull back the therapy curtain. We get a phone call.
Sorry, just 1 second.
That's okay. That's therapy calling. Hi, therapy.
Hi, I'm recording an episode. Can I call you back?
And therapy says,
It was a telemarketer.
no problem. So we reach into that therapy room. We pull out a theme, a factoid, a question, a query, a quandary, something that's floating around in the culture.
True. We do
And
that.
then we just have a conversation about it
That's right.
on the couch. Why?
Well, it's because therapy themes are everywhere you look.
They are.
That's right.
We're always saying that. Okay, speaking is speaking.
Sometimes you get interjected with a phone call from a friend.
And sometimes it's the telemarketer.
And sometimes it's not an important call, so you just have to hang up.
Should we just get into it?
Yeah, let's take a break,
Yeah.
and we'll be right back.
Hear a word from our sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, click. All right, take us to it.
So we have a lovely listener story. And like you said, you kind of have, we've received quite a bit of stories about like navigating change or like navigating hard things and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is so lovely. And this one kind of stood out to me because I almost loved like wait, but I'm not experiencing that angle to this. And you'll see why when we get to the story. So I'm calling this lovely listener story, No Big Changes. And it goes like this. My life has been so stable for years that I can't recall a period of change that affected me in a big way. I sometimes wonder if never experiencing big changes in my life is actually bad for me, because sometimes the smallest changes can throw me off. If I would have experienced some bigger life changes and things growing up, maybe I'd be better and more able to handle the little things now as an adult. ... What do you make of that initial reactions?
I mean, this is a story about resilience in my mind.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to bounce back and have those muscles, social, emotional, or otherwise,
Okay.
to get yourself to the place where you need to be. And I think in a lot of ways we forget that we need hard experiences and life experience in general in order to set a bit of a yellow brick road for us to travel down, for us to get there, right? And so I think the lovely listener is right that on the whole, if you don't have those experiences, then future experiences might be more challenging to navigate.
Right.
But I might do a bit of a reframe on that, which is that maybe the lovely listener is experiencing the experiences that they need to experience in order to build that muscle.
Okay.
Right. So it's not that, I can't do it. It's more just that, well, maybe you're new to it. Maybe these are the first few experiences that you need to have before you build that muscle or kind of move on to that next level of life. I think a lot of the ways that we make decisions will reflect and mirror how our family members made decisions. So we typically tend to take the blueprint, right, from the people that raised us. And so the way our parents solve problems, the way our parents made choices, I do think does influences the way that we make choices. And so first we want to kind of think about like, is this really me making this choice? Or am I just kind of taking the script that I had from the past? Am I just drawing on the blueprint that I kind of got from my dad? Like, is this how my dad would solve this problem? Is this how my mom would solve this problem? And so often we're holding that same script that members of our family did. So let's say, for example, this lovely listener is like, should I get a new job? That might be informed by how many jobs or how many job switches their family members had. Maybe they're kind of at the 5-year mark being like, oh yeah, like my dad moved around a lot, or like really also got his,
Oh, I see.
or
see.
he also kind of like had ants in his pants every so
Oh
often.
my God, I haven't heard that in forever. Ants in your pants? Whoa.
Bring back
that
ants.
just brought me bring back ants in your pants.
Bring back ants in your pants.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There was a whole song about that.
Yeah.
Why you have tapped into something in my brain. Wasn't there a song about
Oh, I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah.
So I'm only just connecting it back to family because around the problem solving piece, around like, how did members of your family sit with discomfort? How did they sit with fears or anger or worry?
Yeah.
And how does that impact my decision today, right now, in this moment? That just because maybe that was their way of doing things doesn't mean it has to be your way of doing things.
Right.
So maybe this is an opportunity to depart from the way that family members do things, or maybe this is actually a really good instruction manual for living life, which is that no, this is a situation that you should be a bit more careful and cautious about. And so it does require a bit more thought and does require a bit more planning. Just because our mom did it that way or our dad did it that way doesn't mean that it's correct necessarily, especially if it was really impulsive or really reactive or really kind of like, I'm thinking about situations in families where decisions are made just really fast without a lot of thought to them. To get yourself out of that polarization or that cognitive bias is to surround yourself with other people outside of those echo chambers. And so this is where, as a social species, we need to like sort through things with people, right? We need to have people that we can talk through these types of things with. And it turns out that the people who are surrounding themselves with more different types of people, different types of lived experiences, different perspectives on things, they are more likely able to combat the biases that they have. But when you're in an echo chamber, when you're more polarized, those biases feel like truth.
Right.
They feel like that is the predominant capital T story that you have to go by.
Right. The homogeneity of the
Exactly.
of the group think
Yeah.
makes me believe that this is the truth and this is in fact.
Yeah. So when you have other people to kind of bounce life off of,
Yeah.
then you just have a more fully formed picture of life.
Yeah.
Kind of like horse blinders, like when you get open to the world,
Yeah.
you get more opened up.
Oh, those horse blinders. They were so in fashion in the 90s. Like when we were growing up, I just remember my mom just like packing those in my bag and I would be like, oh, not again.
Did
like
you ever,
right next to my gym clothes.
Did you ever get the courage to put them on? Or did they stay in the bag?
No, I put them on every now and then.
Okay.
I did.
It's so brave of you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trailblazer.
Trailblazer.
Honestly, let's transition
In like a really
in a really big way.
Why do some siblings have the same experience but interpret it differently, and then that may or may not bring them together or may drift them apart? Why does that happen?
Yeah, I think there are many reasons why it can happen, right? Sometimes it could be because of just one significant event or set of events that force them apart. But it could also just be that growing up, they just didn't have as many moments of connections or similarities enough to kind of keep them close. That is to say that siblings in families, they are a part of the same family, but they don't have the same experience. Right? So they grew up in the same house, but they didn't grow up with the same stories or experiences, right? So we could be in the same family, but have a completely different experience of what that was like for us in that family. And so maybe what is common is that maybe one family member, maybe a parent, treats one sibling one way and another sibling another way. Or maybe one sibling doesn't actually have any issues with being treated a certain way, whereas another sibling does. And so sometimes what can happen is siblings can align and they can kind of bond and become close over that shared experience, or they could become a bit further apart. Similar to what the lovely listener is saying, it could also be that they just don't share a lot in common. And so maybe it's just that they don't have enough to kind of be the glue that holds them together. There's just not enough there that kind of brings them closer. So it's not, it would be a myth to say that it's like big events that cause siblings to not become close. I think it's like little things over time that, that perhaps result in that circumstance.
Question then, could you say it could be natural then for siblings just not to be close? Like they don't have to have an event or like a big rift, but it could just be like via the nature that you're two different people.
Yeah.
Even though you might be under the same roof, have the same experiences, have the same parents, you are two different people and you just don't get along. Or you just don't connect.
Yeah.
Is that natural? Like, should you feel bad for not being besties with your siblings?
Well, think about people at work or people that you went to school with or even in a friend group, right? You're not going to be close to everyone in the exact same way. And you might have different types of relationships with each of those people. And so, yeah, it's incredibly natural, I guess we could say, or common to have different relationships with our siblings. I actually would question this like blood pact that might happen with families. That's like, just because you're blood related doesn't mean you have to have a really tight, strong relationship with each and every member of that family. That could also set us up for harmful relationships or even abusive relationships too, if we're not careful about that, right? So I think just like at work or just like in life, you have different relationships with different people, and a lot of it is that common interests or common traits or values like bring people closer, right? And it's also quite common for values to be quite different among siblings. Part of the concern here is that I think many people force closeness in families when closeness just isn't a possibility, and closeness isn't actually what those two people need or want. And so sometimes the opposite could also be true, which is that when you're forcing people to be close when they don't really have a lot in common, that could also be a recipe for a disaster also. And so this is we're seeing a lot of this. We're seeing a lot of this theme of families or family members going no contact. So whether that's like siblings with siblings or parents and siblings, we're seeing a lot of family estrangements happening. And I think some of it is because of just the way the world is right now, that we have become so polarized that it is becoming a bit harder for us to maintain those relationships. Some of it could also be the result of what is called atomization, which is where if you're not in physical proximity with each other, you become so atomized and separated that you just don't have enough face-to-face time with each other, right? Which doesn't build relationships as closely as when you're with people in proximity.
What about being in different, having a shared history with someone? Like, I guess like siblings, and we're talking in, broad strokes here, but the idea would be you have a history with this person, like in very traditional settings, like parents are usually the first people that you kind of connect to, right? Like attachment styles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what about siblings and all that? Like if you are the eldest and then a second comes in, like I'm sure you see this in your work, right? Like how does like a history of, I don't know, like, because that changes the family dynamic, right? Like even if you go from your only child to 2 to 3, or like only child and suddenly there's twins, like how does that actually fundamentally change a relationship for the sibling? Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
perfect.
sorry, I didn't know you were done speaking.
Yeah. I was like, wait, did I miss a social cue?
Things like birth order or even just the distance between ages can complicate those dynamics for sure. I'm thinking about, like you're saying, sometimes older siblings do have a bit more leadership thrust upon them or a bit more pressure to set the standard or to behave a lot more, to be a role model, let's say. And sometimes notoriously younger siblings get a bit more permission to just loosen the reins a bit and to be themselves and to like maybe have more freedoms. Maybe the rules are a bit more lax because parents have kind of done it time and time again. And so, yeah, those dynamics certainly do affect individual relationships within a family for sure.
Because sibling dynamics is interesting, right? Because it's different. They're not parents. And sometimes depending on how old you are with your siblings, they could be your peers,
Yes.
or they could be like 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, but like close enough, or the opposite, where there's like a big gap.
When siblings aren't on the same plane of emotional maturity, sometimes that can be because of age, or sometimes that can be because of any sort of trauma that they experienced early in their own childhoods, independent of the family unit, or in the family unit. Then that can also complicate the closeness of the relationship too. When siblings aren't developing or progressing on the same plane, so maybe, for example, one sibling is in therapy and another sibling is not, those relationships just naturally look different, right? When someone's working on themselves or growing and changing in a way that the other sibling is not. Relationships in adulthood with siblings are very different than relationships with siblings in childhood.
That was my last question.
Right. So they just look differently. They just do.
Yeah.
And as adults, like, our lives just sort of transform in ways that parents maybe try to maintain the family structure by keeping siblings close or by organizing family events that bring people together. And so sometimes what we see is that if siblings aren't doing that on their own without maybe an adult or the parent kind of facilitating those interactions, then those ties, those bonds will be weaker. And so we typically see that in siblings, especially in adulthood, when they are organizing their own outings together or they are hanging out independent of the family, then that's when those bonds tend to be a bit stronger. And so if a lovely listener is asking, like, how can I build closer relationships with my siblings? That would be one of those low-hanging fruit things, which is that you want to hang out with them outside of moments where you're obligated to be there. What we're seeing a lot more of too, which I just think it's really important for us. I'm kind of more speaking to the healthcare people right now. We need to be aware of this dynamic that sibling abuse is also on the rise. We're seeing a lot of what might just be considered normalized sibling rivalries or, dynamics of kids hurting each other physically or emotionally. But we also are seeing a lot more families, siblings specifically, abusing each other. And so it's not necessarily just the power structure from parent to child where that emotional abuse or coercive control is happening, but it can also happen in sibling dynamics as well, which sometimes with mental health professionals gets normalized as, oh, they're just being brothers, or that's just what siblings do. They mistreat each other or they fight. And so siblings who are fighting can also really in the early years be formative experiences for that they unpack later in therapy.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's something I'm seeing a lot more commonly in my practice where I'm hearing a lot more about sibling abuse and parents doing nothing about it. Or they tell an adult, like a teacher at school, and the teacher maybe minimizes it or does nothing about it again. And so there's something about families and there's something about child to child, sibling to sibling dynamics of harm and abuse that we don't take as seriously.
Yeah.
Maybe a more clear-cut example too is for someone who's grown up with abuse, or whether that's emotional abuse or physical abuse. Sometimes people gravitate towards those relationships because it's familiar, not because it's healthy.
Right.
They get themselves back into those scenarios because that's what feels like home, and those are the types of bonds or attachments that feel like love. If it feels like love and attachment because it's familiar, not because it's secure. And so that is a dynamic where, yeah. And I do think that there is a part of us that can relate to that on some level. In many ways, I do think that we gravitate towards this pain is pleasure system that can sometimes be hard to distinguish for some people. And I don't mean that in a sadistic way. I don't mean like for the people who love pain and call it pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for the people that put themselves in scenarios, whether that's with jobs, with burnout, with the way that we take care of our own needs and self-care, or the way that we even treat our own mental health sometimes. On paper, we might look at that for someone else and say, why are you doing that? What is to that? Like, why are you doing that behavior when you know it kind of hurts you? Or why are you finding yourself back in that relationship when you know it's not working?
Yeah.
Those are all just sort of the rhythms of life that again, we find ourselves in. And I do take the compassionate lens, which is that there are probably protective reasons why we do that.
Yeah.
And I do think that our attachment frameworks that we're used to do inform a lot of what we choose. And so the person who maybe chooses an avoidant partner is someone who grew up kind of in that environment where we've had avoidance as a part of our language of love. Sometimes people find familiarity in the struggle and in the kind of upheaval. And some people do wish for greener pastures, and they try to find that change or that new environment that is going to feel more for them. But that's scary to leap into when it's not necessarily a part of your normal or a part of something that has helped you in the past.
So I guess, when do you know to just,
I mean,
too big of a question.
Well,
but-
only because that's the work of therapy, right?
Right.
I think this is like a good opportunity to just sell like why and how psychotherapy can help, is that that is what can help people make those changes when maybe you're feeling like you're struggling to do so.
Right.
Yep.
So if you made your way to the end of this episode, you know that this is the end. So thank you so much for being here, lovely listeners. It's so much fun being here. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And this is In Therapy on wherever you scroll.
That's true.
So come and find us, because we love to hear from you.
Yeah.
It's like one of our favorite things.
Love it. And we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
6-7. Do we still say that?
No. At the time of recording, we don't say it, so I don't think we're going to be saying it when the time this episode comes out.
Rats.
This isn't therapy.
You can hang up now.
No, you hang up first.
No, you hang up first.
What's happening here?